Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's yoga class, whether you're joining live or a little bit later on. My name is Brenton, and today's class is called We Need This. So it's going to be centered around the knee. We're going to pay a good amount of attention to how we're straightening our legs, how we're activating our legs on all sides, and how we're creating balanced tension around our joint. So I think it'll be a really, really great step forward if you are someone who experiences knee pain, or if you're just someone who knows that you need to build a little bit more strength. Perfect. I have a chair back here. If you can set your mat up around an ottoman or something like that. If not, don't worry, we'll improvise when we get to that part. Also, if you have 2 yoga blocks, you may as well get them now. Again, if you don't have them, we'll improvise when we get to that part, so no worries at all. I'm gonna go ahead, start my timer so I know where we are in terms of time, and as usual, let's get started on our backs. So when we first come down here, it's a nice time to move around in any way that feels good. Paying attention to how you're breathing. And without doing anything too forceful, seeing if it's available to breathe in and out through the nose this morning. And also when you breathe in, that the air is traveling down into the abdomen and it's inflating the abdomen on all sides. So it's not just stuck on the front or the sides or the back, but it moves evenly around the trunk. From here, we'll set our feet up for our first bridge pose. So setting the arms, lifting the hips up. You can move your hips around again anyway if you want to rock them or just kind of touch up and down. The point is to give the brain a moment to activate the glutes, so the bottom muscles. And you'd be surprised, when our glutes are sleepy and they're not active, that actually puts a lot more into the knee than is necessary in a lot of times. So it's a good thing that we'll spend some time turning the glutes on. So hold your glute bridge with me. And if you need to take a break at any time, take a break. But the point again is to get the brain to activate the glutes, even if they start to get tired. And then keeping your rib cage down, let's stretch out the wrists. So if you take your arms up, chest is still open, you can just flick out through the wrists a little bit. Now keep your breath easy in and out through your nose. Keep it dynamic and full in the lower abdomen. Once you start to feel the forearms fire up a little bit there, you can go ahead, release the fingers, flex and extend through the wrists, preparing them for weight bearing. And from here, maybe leaving the arms up, starting with the upper spine. So feeling the top ribs come down, keep the chest open. As you layer everything down to the ground, releasing the arms. Let's play with the knee. Taking the left knee up over the left side of the pelvis. Notice if your whole body kind of falls over to the left. Try to get your whole body on the floor like it just was. And then from here, we'll play with bending and straightening the left leg. Now, don't push too hard into any areas that are telling you no. So we want to be really soft with how we approach our boundaries, but we do want to be specific, because I think it's that precision, the specificity that ultimately makes the brain feel safe enough to let those boundaries expand a little bit. So here, as we're bending and straightening the leg, let's think about it as the bones being pulled away from each other to bring them to stack or towards a stacked position. And when I say the bones moving and lifting, what moves our bones is our muscles. So instead of letting gravity or momentum do any of this work, see if you can create balanced tension on the front of your shin, your calf, your hamstring, and the front of your leg, your quad, in order to create this movement. Let's play with the right leg as well. So taking the left foot down, keeping the whole body nice and stable on the floor, right leg up, and you just kind of go back and forth. Now, if you have really poppy joints, know that that's a normal thing as long as it's not accompanied by any pain. And sometimes what can help influence the poppiness is actually creating more balanced tension. So activating, and it's hard to feel, but activating through the front, the backs of the legs evenly. And then from here, taking both legs down to the ground, come back up into your glute bridge. And then we'll see here, this can be holding this pose or moving to the next progression. This next progression would be keeping your pelvis up, keeping your glutes fired. Try to hold your pelvis in one place as you walk the left foot forward a little bit. Try to hold your pelvis in place as you walk the right foot forward a little bit. Try to hold the pelvis in place as you walk the left foot forward a little bit. Try to hold the pelvis, oh God, in place as you walk the right foot forward. Same thing as you walk the legs back. And as you feel ready, taking everything down to the ground. Let's interlock the hands behind the head. Hopefully you felt the hamstrings turn on there. I really did. Cupping the elbows in, relax your head into your hands and lift up off your shoulder blades. So your head is completely supported in your hands. You're using your abdominal muscles to lift the chest up. Now just see if you can hold here with me, staying nice and calm in the breathing, facial muscles soft and relaxed. When you're ready, release and relax to the ground. One more time, lift up off the shoulder blades, head soft into the hands. Remember, we're not lifting up with the neck, we're lifting up with the abdominal muscles. As you feel ready, if you want, left knee up over the left side of the pelvis, and again, bending and straightening the leg. Just trying to feel for that precision of bones moving away from each other, so nothing is feeling forced, everything is feeling strong and active. Taking the left foot down, lift up off the shoulder blades and release. As we feel ready, let's come up off the shoulder blades again. You can stay here if this is enough complexity, or right leg. And it's tempting here to want to move really quickly, but again, moving quickly is relying on momentum. So when we're talking about controlled movement, we're talking about active movement, a lot of times we're talking about that in a slow fashion. Which is not to say that fast movement is bad. We'll do some fast movement today, but it just serves a different purpose. Taking the right foot down, lifting up off the shoulder blades, and release. Okay, feeling nice and warm in your belly. Let's go ahead and do this one more time. And it's your choice what you want to do. So about 30 seconds or so, let's play. I'll give us the halfway point, just so we know. About halfway. As we feel ready, coming all the way down. And coming all the way to hands and knees. Hands and knees is another time to just move around in any way that feels good to you. This is where I like to give the disclaimer about the wrists. So if you're a wrist person, you can always pop up to your fists or pop down to your forearms. And that should be about true of almost everything that we do in our practice. Let's together meet with the elbows underneath the shoulders. You can have the hands wide or clasped. From here, we'll tuck the toes and lift off the knees for dolphin, keeping the neck nice and relaxed here. Let's widen the base, widen the feet, come up onto the tippy toes, tipping the pelvis over the ribs and pulling the ribs up over the shoulders. So that's the torso part. The leg part, if we wanted to work with it, would be bending the knees and then straightening the legs. But here's the kicker. We want to find that same action of legs pulling away from each other, but we don't want to disturb the low back. So we want to learn how to use our legs independently of our spine. So trying to keep your pelvis where it is, just working the leg action. So you feel ready down to the knees, up to the hands, pushing off the knees, walking back for a standing forward bend. Again, just some time for you to kind of figure out how do you like to sit your feet, what do you like to do? Do you like to move around or be still? We know that if the floor is really far away, you can always perch yourself up onto your thighs or perch your forearms on a countertop, an ottoman, something like that. Nice and slowly, if your spine is feeling up for it, bend your knees, roll all the way up. Ta-da! Just for today, step the feet so that they're right underneath the hip sockets. So the frontal hip bone travels through the center of the knee, down to the ankle. And instead of feeling like the legs are going to straight because you're pulling back at the kneecap, instead of that, feel like, no, my feet are driving my shins down, like my feet are trying to pull them down through the floor. And at the same time, my thighs are pulling my thigh bones up into the pelvis. So there's this feeling of stability at the ankle and the hip, the two joints surrounding the knee. And you feel like you're back over your heels. Knee is back over the heels, pelvis is back over the heels. And then from here, moving a little bit through the arms. If you like to merge this with breath, it can be one breath to lift, one breath to lower. Trying to feel here a sense also that the shoulders are different than the ribs. So when we move through the shoulders, we try to keep the ribs out of the picture in a neutral position. Taking the arms down by the side, let's not change from the pelvis all the way out through the head. Keep the feet pressing and the thighs pulling, but do bend the knees. So now the knees are bent, feet are still pulling down, thighs are still pulling up. And then from here, maintain this relationship, this nice neutral spine as we hinge over the legs any amount. And only go so far down as you can maintain neutral spine as you press down and come up. So we're really looking for one primary joint change, and that joint change is at the hip. So the more neutral we can keep the spine, the better the goodies. Now when we come up, let's do this a different way. So the bent knee version will be accessible for most people. This one you may feel like you have less range of motion available, and that's normal, but we do want to work the knee in the straight position. So do all of your good leg activation, and then from here, hands onto the pelvis, get yourself nice and lifted. Keep the pelvis right over the heels, it's gonna wanna push back, and then keep the backs of the knees nice and open, legs straight and working as you hinge forward any amount. And just know for yourself, like, is this different? Don't pull your kneecaps back coming up. So the tendency there is going to be to not want to use the active tissues. It's going to want to be to depend on the bones by pulling the knees back or shifting the hips way back. But just try to get your legs as a nice vertical experience. And now you can come forward any way you like to the hip hinge. So this will be our halfway lift. From here, taking the arms down, chest nice and open, front abdomen in. We can reach the arms wide without disturbing the ribs. So that's not a rib cage movement, it's a shoulder movement. Arms down and out. Kind of figure out, like, where do you land here? What feels best to you? Hold that, and then release over the legs any amount to fold. At this time, we can go ahead and walk forward towards our first downward facing dog. Pushing out with the fingers. You want to get a sense of the shoulders lifting, like the shoulders are trying to lift towards the hands. And then let the shoulders actually do that as you shift forward to plank. Plank, get your ribs up, get your pelvis up. Just try to breathe here without clenching your jaw, your face. Give your brain a little bit of time to activate this whole experience. You know, you can always put knees down too as well. That can be a great option. So let's put knees down. Pelvis is in front of the knees. Heart's about in line with the fingernails. We want to feel the chest open, collarbone to collarbone. As we bend the elbows, try to lower in one piece. As we release and relax down here, let's just get the shoulders a little bit more warm for us. So cactusing the arms, chin tucked, we can hover and pulse. You decide where the elbows are. Are they in line with your shoulders? Are they pulling forward and back? You can kind of play around here with lots of different shoulder movements just to sort of get a sense for opening the upper back, activating the arms. Try to dissociate this from movement at your ribs or your pelvis. Then taking the hands back underneath the elbows, roll the shoulders open. Try to stay organized. We're going to push through the hands, lift the front body to the back body. Tuck the toes off the knees, downward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Get strong, push off the hands one at a time, walk back to the legs. The knees can bend generously. Press down here on the inhale, arms wide. Exhale, hands to pelvis, upright to the torso. Inhale, reaching the arms wide and high. Tipping over the legs. Walking ourselves forward, downward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Shifting the position forward towards plank, top of a push-up. Knees down to the ground, bend the elbows, try to lower in an organized fashion. Taking the tops of the feet down, we'll do something for the legs here. So slide your hands back, pinkies up, lift the legs for locust. We want to stay in good feeling places for the low back, so maybe a little bit more glutes, more front body lifting into the back body, so that now you feel like your legs are being lifted from the muscles behind the legs rather than like a pivot place in your back. If you want to swim, you can swim with the legs. If it makes sense to lift one knee, keep that knee nice and lifted, not moving at the low back at all. This is what makes it leg and hip movement. From here, bending into one knee, straightening out through that leg, doing the other side. Trying to keep that knee lifted the whole time. You just choose the range of motion that works for you. So maybe doing like one more on each side. And again, if you feel this, like pinching in the low back at all, it's just information that's saying, hey, I'm not as plugged in there as I could be. Taking the legs back, hands underneath the elbows, chest nice and broad, lifting up to the knees, tucking the toes, lifting up and back, downward facing dog. In this downward facing dog, let's do what we did in dolphin pose, so coming up to the tippy toes here. The whole torso is trying to lift up and forward. So ribs trying to lift, pelvis is trying to lift, and then again, bending the knees a little bit, trying not to move in the spine too much, and then straightening the legs back.
Just kind of working that a few times. Like maybe at first it doesn't compute, but then over a few repetitions, it starts to make more sense. So you feel ready, heels down, walking the hands back, bending into the knees, so a nice easy forward bend at the back. Inhale, arms wide. Exhale, hands to pelvis, standing up. Inhale, reaching the arms up. Exhale, taking the hands down. Can we remember the principle of straightening the leg in more dynamic movement? So can you back yourself up to a chair? We're not actually going to sit in the chair, but the chair is going to give us some feedback about how low we can go. So set your feet up for chair pose, come down, and pulse. This is a good time for you to just move evenly at the ankles, knees, and hips, and try to limit movement at the low back, just for this pose, because the purpose is to train mobility and strength of these joints below the back. Now, look behind you. See where your chair is. See, can I get a little bit lower and bounce? Okay, look back. See where your chair is. Can I get a little bit lower? Can I even like maybe touch without landing and bounce? Coming all the way up. See how you feel there. Maybe you got all the way down, maybe you didn't. But good to expose the legs to different ranges of motion and then ask them to activate. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, tipping forward over the legs. Inhale, arms wide. My heart is beating so fast. Exhale, hands down, walking forward, downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, let's shift your forward towards plank, top of a push-up. You decide how you come down to the ground. Once you come down here, tops of the feet relax. Let's pay attention to the upper body now. So tensing the fingers wide, elbows up, push into your finger pads, activate through your arms and into your chest so that you can roll off the ground. Just up and down like that a few times. And see when you roll, like try to choose a range of motion where the low back feels okay. As we feel ready from here, coming down, sliding the hands back underneath the elbows, chest and shoulders open. Can I stay organized here as I press up through the knees? Tucking the toes, lifting off the knees, downward facing. Here we go, we'll push off the hands. We'll walk back to the feet. From here on the inhale breath, arms wide. Hands to the pelvis, press down, stand up. Inhale, reaching the arms up. Exhale, sliding the hands down. Taking the hands to the pelvis, up and down on the tippy toes. Trying not to pitch in the pelvis. If it starts to feel okay for you to do it faster. And then seeing, does it work for you to hold up? Maybe you have to like walk around, that's okay. But try to get even activation, even tension all the way up through your leg, walking the right foot forward so you're staggered. It's hard. Press down through both feet, left foot forward. Keep yourself nice and pulled up over the back, over the pelvis. Keep going until we get to the top. The top hold. And release. Just see if you can stand here and feel this without feeling like you have to shake out everything, all your sensations. Okay, here we go. Inhale, arms reaching all the way out and up. On the exhale, we can take the hands down. You can step the left foot back to a lunge. So a lunge, heel up if you can. On the toe mount of the back leg if you can. Push out of the front leg enough that you can get yourself pelvis upright, head upright. And now you should feel a stretch through the whole front of the left side of the body. Keeping that, play the edge of your right knee down and forward. When that is happening, create space between your front hip bone and your front thigh. Front hip bone and front thigh, get space. Now maybe taking the hands back behind the head here. Try to get yourself nice and lifted. Bend one or both knees any amount. Press into both feet, straighten up. We'll just take 2 more of these. Choose a range of motion that works for you. There's lots of ways to bend and straighten your legs, and they're all good as long as we are ready for them and we're able to create balanced tension around our joints. From here, holding the head into the hand, seeing can I pitch the pelvis forward over the front leg, staying long in the spine. Hands to the pelvis, move the back foot under. Here we are, we're in a wide chair now. So feet wider, swaying. As you're swaying, take note of hip to armpit. So swaying the legs, but not on the pelvis. That means as you go left to right, hip to armpit stays the same distance. Now coming down, let's see, come down through center, chair. We're gonna see, maintaining the length of both sideways. Can I shift the weight over to the left foot? Stand on the left leg, bring the right heel up. Right foot down. I shift the weight over, side waist even. Left foot up. Left foot down. Shifting over. Right foot up. Keep going. Can I do one more on each side? Coming back through chair here on the inhale, taking the arms forward, maybe up, back ribs nice and full. Exhale, tipping over the legs. Breathing in, arms wide, halfway up. And then exhale, hands to pelvis, standing up. Inhale, reach the arms wide and high. Exhale, hands to the heart. Check in with your breathing. And again, come back to breathing in and out through the nose. So this morning, if you start to get a little bit overwhelmed with what we're doing, you'll know because you'll start breathing through your mouth. Try to keep it in your nose. Step back with the right foot. Set yourself up in your lunge. Again, push the power into the back leg so you get yourself nice and lifted. And then from that, you bend into the front knee. And it's the same thing, hip bone away from the left thigh. Okay, finding the breath here, maybe interlocking the hands behind the head, pulling the head up, back into the hands. Here we go, we're trying to maintain nice structure through our spine as we bend one or both legs. Straighten. Really feel those quads work. Those quads, they control the kneecap. It's like they're pulling the kneecap up. Coming down into the lunge, tipping forward, stepping the back foot in. Little cat-cow here. So inhale, open the chest. Exhale, curl everything in. A couple more. Forward folding. Breathing in, arms wide. And then out, hands down, stepping back, down dog. From down dog, shifting forward towards plank, top of a push-up, lifting the ribs into the shoulders, touch the knees down. So now think about maintaining the whole core, the whole center of the body as we touch up and down with the knees. And if you need to take a break, take a break. You can hold one position. From here, knees down. Any way you like, come down to the floor. Just kind of chill out down here. Whatever feels good, right? Even if that's staying active, doing some of the stretches, the positions that we've done before. And then legs back, sliding the hands underneath the elbows, Rolling the shoulders back, trying to stay organized. Press up to the knees. Tuck the toes, lift off the knees, down dog. Here we go again. We'll walk back to the feet. At the back, inhale, arms wide. Hands to the pelvis, stand on up. Reaching up. Down. How did you like that chair thing? Because for me, it got me into a range of motion that I don't normally do, which challenges it in a new way. So that's, I think, one of the good things about the chair. So pick an object that's the right height for you. Set your feet for chair. Come down just to a comfortable place. You're bouncing. Now keeping the low back again as out of the movement as we can. Seeing if we can get lower. Touching up and down from the chair. And coming all the way up. Whew, that's crazy. I love it. Okay, so up and down. And then one more time, up. Walking forward, trying to create balance, tension all the way up, like a stocking of tension all the way up. Whoop. And this time when we come forward, we're not just staying there. We can actually move back. And then we can actually move forward again. This time landing about halfway on the mat, turning to face the side, hands onto the waist or the hips. We're gonna see, can I keep my pelvis upright and step the feet wide? When I do this, can I land evenly on my feet so that the inner seam and the outer seam of the leg are working evenly, let's say. So just going in and out. And then if you want to build up the heart rate a little bit, let's do jumping jacks together. So start with your feet in, arms down. Here we go, out and in. And here, become aware, we're gonna do this like, I don't know, up to a minute. But here, become aware that you can land on your foot to the inside or the outside. Attempt to land right in the middle. Okay, here we go. Wide, arms down, see how you feel. So just getting everything, it's good to move fast sometimes, right? Said that at the beginning. Heels in, toes out, coming down. Fast movement helps us with our power. Power is the speed at which we can generate force. So that's really nice. And it also builds up elastic recoil in the tissues. So having said that, bounce a little bit here for those same exact reasons. And then settling yourself down, hands onto the waist. I'll give you the side view. Here we go. We're gonna see, can I tip the pelvis forward? So it's like I'm doing the same hip hinge work, up and down, trying to keep the knees over their toes. And if your knees don't feel so good on the ins, if you get inner knee pain or outer knee pain, it's like, what is that trying to tell you? Might be like, oh, if I might not be supported evenly left to right. And if I'm not supported evenly left to right in my knee, maybe that starts somewhere else, like my foot or my hip. And how could I create balanced, even tension around those joints and just see if that impacts, I bet it will, but see if that impacts the pain. So coming up, let's go ahead, bend and straighten the legs. When you do this, try to keep the pelvis upright so the pelvis isn't shifting forward and backward. And then here's something for the knee, down. And here we're gonna use our feet as like a push-pull mechanism. So pull with your left foot, the knee over, push with your right foot so the leg goes straight. Get the knee as far forward, even if it goes forward of the toes, great. But the hips back. Now pull with the right foot, push with the left, coming over. Again, the knee travels as far over as is comfortable with the hips back. Now push and pull to the other side. And really see, like, can I get more? Push and pull to the other side. Can I get more? One more time. As we feel ready, all the way up, turning the toes in. See if you want to hop all the way back together. And then let's go ahead and face the front. See how you feel here now that the legs have stepped wide apart. Let's go ahead, take one yoga block if you have it. If you don't, maybe you have a step in your house, maybe you have a step stool, maybe you have a book. We'll step up. So when you first step up here, just try to get your hovering foot as even as possible with the one on the block. And kind of feel the one on the block, balanced tension all the way up through the leg. None of the bones are locked out. They're all ready for movement at a moment's notice. And then with hands on the waist, we can see, can I bend into the standing leg and potentially touch my bottom leg down to the floor? And if that's possible, then just let yourself go down here. And just for the purposes of this, let's see that the pelvis remains centered between the legs. So hip bones to center knees to second toes. We're trying not to disturb that as we push and lift back up. And now this time, we're just gonna go for a little tap, up and down. And if this is starting to feel like just super accessible, guess what? If you have something higher you can step up onto, then step up onto something higher. And don't expect that it to be like, it could be much harder all of a sudden. And just be okay with that. Now even seeing here, wherever you're lifted up on, can I create balanced tension through my standing leg and just sway the bottom leg without moving the pelvis or the trunk or the head. Sway, baby, sway. From here, can I maintain balance? Pull the left leg up without changing the standing skeleton. Nice and lifted, flexing the left foot. The principles of bending and straightening here. And don't expect the leg to go straight. Just work the principles of bending and straightening. Bones away. Using the muscles, bones away. Taking the leg down, stepping down off this side. Here we go, see how you feel. I feel this a lot in my booty today, which is great because that's gonna help my knee feel like it has a good partner in crime. Let's go right to the other side. I'll turn around. So start just by finding yourself in that nice even standing position. Here we go, bending, touching down. Land here so you can see like, okay, is my pelvis set evenly between my legs? Could I get myself any more lifted through my torso? Here we go, press off, up and down. And it's good to get this many repetitions of something in because repetition is really the mother of all learning. And we need a certain amount of repetitions in order for our tissues to have the stimulus that they need for adaptation. When you come up this next time, coming up, the hips are still at the same height without pitching in the pelvis, swaying the leg. Create balanced tension through the leg that's on the floor or the block or whatever you're standing on. What did we do? Yeah. We pulled that puppy up in front. We worked with the principles of bending and straightening. And you can see how sometimes too, right? Like even just to bend or straighten your leg, how much does your spine want to move or your ribs want to move? And that's just telling you that your brain has chunks that it's not distinguishing between. And part of what we're doing here is getting the brain to be more sophisticated with moving one part of our body versus another. Go ahead, step on off, see how you feel there. I'm feeling kind of cooked in my legs, but I have it in me to do one more standing sequence, so I hope you do too. This one, we're gonna go back to our lunge. Back to the lunge with the left foot back. I always like to bounce. Okay. Getting ourselves nice and lifted over the pelvis. Last time we stopped with hinging forward at the hips. So we'll do that. We'll hinge up and down. Now this is stage one. You can continue to work here because there's a lot of good stuff to work with. Stage two, shifting forward over the front leg, lifting off the back leg for warrior three or an experiment, whatever you want to call it. Left foot back, lunge, hinging forward, experiment. Just kind of go at your own pace. This next time, one foot back, we'll just go right to the second side. So step the left foot forward, the right foot back. Feel the lunge, here we go, up and down. And if you want, you can have your warrior three experimentation. As we feel ready, one foot by the other. Whew, how do you feel? How do your legs feel? Mine are kind of like jello a little bit. Inhale, reach the arms wide and high. Exhale, coming all the way down. Coming onto our bottom, coming onto our back. So I hope if you wanted to build up a sweat today that you had some opportunity to do that. If you wanted to take it easy today, you were able to find ranges of motion to play in. Let's go ahead and stretch out the hips a little bit. If we fold across the legs one over the other, let the heels flop in. If you can grab for your shins and pull your legs in towards your belly, it'll stretch out, sort of like a half pigeon-y type of stretch. You can roll around, find some sweet spots there. Really anything that feels good. As you're ready to unwind and take the other side, doing that as well. It's been such a leg heavy class. We haven't done so much rotation, so it might feel nice. Just kind of twist, whatever kind of like favorite twist that you have. And then of course, if you're twisting one way, to twist the other way as well. As you feel ready for our final resting position, find just a comfortable way to lay down on your back or on your side, or even in a comfortable seated position, whatever works for you. And just see if you have it in you to close your eyes without it feeling forced. See if you have it in you to relax your breathing so that your body is just taking in as much as it needs, which is actually much less than we oftentimes give it. We are a culture of over breathing. So as you kind of let the breath go, you might be surprised, like, wow, this is small and easy. Maybe that's not your experience. That's okay. But just see if you can let your body breathe the way that it would breathe for itself in the deepest part of sleep at night. And then see if you can relax away from your senses, relax away from your impulse to look at things. Relax away from your impulse to react to the sounds that you're hearing. Relax the impulses to move. And of course, if you'd like to stay here and end your practice here, by all means, just ride out this video. Otherwise, maybe start to move around a bit in any way that feels good, but keep that sense of down regulation that we just created. Soft breathing, soft sensing, soft impulses. And if you'd like to end your practice in a seat today, you can come on up. If you even have a few extra minutes after this live stream to sit in quiet, that might also be really nice to further down regulate the nervous system, but in a more alert way, so that you have more of an opportunity to go out into the rest of your life and have this be an integrated aspect of your life, rather than this just 1 hour segment of re-education. So just finding a comfortable place to be. I thank you so much for joining me for this yoga practice. I hope that there is something here that's just a little nugget of wisdom that makes sense and that you can take with you to the mat next time. That's all we're looking for. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for little bits of re-education that will add up over time when you keep coming back and you keep looking at this. Because, for example, next week we'll look at the shoulders. So you can take, the principle of bending and straightening my leg, and wow, it feels like this when I do it. And all of that you can take with you into next week, and we won't talk about that at all anymore. So this is really for you to just feel more close, more connected, more intimate with your movement and your ability to move in educated ways that make you feel good and that are nutritious without, feeling like you're dependent on someone else. Like, doesn't that feel like crap to feel like, man, someone else has to be the one to save me? No, we are here to save ourselves. And so I hope that this is what you're able to take from this week's practice. And as I mentioned, next week, we're gonna focus on our shoulders, sensing them, being able to understand all their different components and their ways of moving. And if you like today's practice, I of course always invite you to donate to Yoga in Your Living Room. I have a link for that in the description below. I also have, links to my website, blog posts, newsletters, teaching on Instagram as well. So find me in all of those places if you're connecting with this. So I think the more of it you have in your life, certainly for me with my teachers, the more of it I have in my life, the better I feel. So thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful day.